Welcome to session 6, where we'll be talking about the skill of encouragement and the power of unity. We are shifting to the emotional state of the brain. We've spent several sessions talking about how we build on that school family piece, moving into the survival state skills, and now we're shifting into the emotional state, where we will discuss the power of unity and talk about the skill of encouragement for kiddos. In this session, we're going to learn a few things. We're going to talk a lot about identifying ways to shift from that culture of us and them to the culture of we. When we're thinking about that power of unity, it's really just what we're trying to hit here as the goal is all of us are in this together. We're going to talk about or understand how we recognize of being of service. A lot of times, a lot of the skills and structures, and you'll see several examples of some skills and structures that are going to bring out as far as meaningful jobs or ways to be helpful, really going to encourage the best way possible to implement this skill to teach encouragement, that sense of unity for others and for kids. And we'll talk about how it can be a replacement for intrinsic, those external rewards as far as the sticker charts, and it goes beyond the candy rewards and the stickers. Practice the language of encouragement, and we're going to have a few opportunities today to practice that and really just own in on that just power of acceptance and just that unconditional love for others. And then we're going to talk a little bit more, again, as I mentioned, I'm going to show you a couple examples of different structures that you can use either in the home or also in your future classrooms. So when we're thinking about that skill of encouragement, what is that? Well, in order to implement that skill of encouragement, we have to build that school family that we've been building on or talking about, and that connected home family as well. That power of unity, meaning we're all in this together. We are all in, hands on deck, all in this together. Having the opportunity to be able to talk to you guys as early educators, future early educators, to already have that mindset when you're thinking about creating that classroom for that very first time, or that culture that you're trying to set the tone for, or complete that, or that compassionate culture that you're wanting to. You got to go in with that mindset of, man, we are in this together. And building kind of on these skills and knowing that, you're not going to have the perfect classroom, but if you go in with this mindset that, man, we're going to do this and we all have a job to do. And we'll talk about that in further detail today about how important that is to create that culture of we. The adult goal, because we know that each session we talk about, here's the adult goal, because we know this is an adult first model, is building that school family, that connected home family, by creating that sense of belonging. I don't know if you guys remember a couple sessions back when I showed you the video of Elijah, when Elijah was talking about when we were talking about Elijah's journey. And if you remember in that video, because the classroom had already had that culture of we, that compassionate culture of helping and willingness, that skill of positive intent that we will talk about towards the end of this series, because all of these skills have come into play from this particular educator, and that's the type of culture that she had in her classroom. Every one of these kids, when they saw a specific behavior or saw Elijah have a certain behavior, each one of them swooped in with some type of strategy or some type of way to come back to that connected piece, so that they can create that sense of belonging for Elijah. And if you don't remember that video, I encourage you to go back and check that out in the composure. We talked about composure. It's a great video, and it really just captures just the transformation that this little boy had from day one to a couple of days later, because he was put into a classroom where they accepted him instead of judging him, and they noticed him and saw a need. And he just kind of blossomed through that. So I encourage you to go back and check that out. And it'll be in the composure session that we talked about a few times back. And then the child goal, we're thinking about how can we develop connections and relationships with adults and peers as part of the community. So really just going back to that, and you think about that poster that I showed in the beginning here, that sense of unity that we're all in this together. It's a great visual and a great reminder to go, gosh, don't we all want to live in a compassionate world, especially in this world that we're living in right now? We have an opportunity as early educators to create that sense of family within our classrooms. So we're shifting now to the emotional state of the brain. If you remember when we talked about the survival state of the brain, we talked about the NARCS acronym, or we talked about noticing and assertiveness and routines for pictures. Now that we're shifting into that emotional state of the brain, we're going to talk a lot about rituals, still the importance of rituals as far as goodbye rituals, good morning rituals, morning routines, transitions. You know, this is kind of the mindset that you have an opportunity here to think about. When I have a classroom, this is going to be my morning routine, or this may be my welcome song, because these rituals we know is what helps children meet that connection piece to where they know that they feel loved and they have that sense of belonging, so they're ready to operate on that front part of their brain. So today we're really going to own in on that encouragement piece. So again, we'll start with our pre-learning survey just to kind of see. And again, just a reminder, we're going to do this on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being that you strongly agree, 1 being that you strongly disagree. We're going to put a 3 kind of in the middle. So grab a piece of paper, just as we've done in the last few sessions, just to kind of see where your knowledge is before we start talking today. Okay, so number 1, it's going to have 4 questions here. You cannot have an encouraging classroom or home unless you focus on what you want. We talked about this in the last session, focusing on what we want with assertiveness. Okay, number 2, being of service is genetically within us. Being of service is genetically within us. Number 3, the kindness tree structure is like catching them being good. We're going to talk a little bit about different things that we can do, different structures that we can do where it doesn't seem like we're judging a child's behavior or belittling them in front of peers. And last question, acceptance demonstrates unconditional love. Acceptance demonstrates unconditional love, meaning there's no demand for love, that it's unconditional. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being you strongly agree, 1 being strongly disagree, and then 3 kind of in the middle or mixed. Okay, when we're thinking about the power of unity, right? We think about that intrinsic motivation that comes within us, that it helps us to behave in certain ways that come of relationships of one another. We know how important and valuable relationships are. As humans, we are wired to view the world in a compassionate way and look for connection and to be of service of others. So that last question, it's like we're genetically to be of service, whether that's acts of service at home. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the Love Languages book by Gary Chapman, but if you are, I encourage you to read it to find out what your love language is. Acts of service being a love language out of the 5 different types of languages. So, people show love in different ways. So just knowing that, yes, we want to live in a compassionate world. We do live in a compassionate world where we desire connection and how connection is important. And when we're of service with others, that brings in that element connection. So that's kind of where I want to get, what kind of mindset I want you to be at today. And I want you to just kind of think about, I have here, think about what happens when you do something for someone, or how it feels when you are helpful, or when you volunteer. If some of you volunteer at church, or even volunteer in the nursery room at church, or vice versa. But thinking about just that, what that does to you inside is knowing that you're being of service to someone and it's helpful. Nowhere near should ever feel like it's a burden or that it's a negative feeling. But just knowing that it's that intrinsic motivation to just, gosh, man, that feels good. I want to do more of that. And so that's kind of where I want to take you, is that what that feels like for you as the adult, and think about what that does for children too, when they know that they're being helpful, or just an act of kindness, or serving. And you can have that inside your classrooms. You can have that type of classroom. If that's your desire, it is doable and you can totally do it. So thinking about that power of unity, I've talked a lot about changing your job description. Dr. Bailey talks about how important it is that when we think about that element of safety, and we talked about this in the beginning, we were talking about creating that school family piece, or connected home piece, is changing that job description. If we don't change that job description as far as meeting that safety, when we're going back and we're saying, my job is to keep it safe, your job is to help keep it safe, we're not cultivating that safe culture, so that we can, so that children are able to feel better connected and loved. Adults and children of service, by helping others, requires them to feel that sense of safety. So just kind of reflecting back on a couple of sessions where we've talked about the importance of changing that job description. As you, as the educator, it is my job as your teacher is to keep this classroom safe, boys and girls, and your job is to help me keep it safe. Your role as a parent, or an aunt or an uncle is, my job as your aunt or a parent is to keep it safe, and your job is to help me keep it safe, because then we're all creating that sense of unity that we're trying to build on. So something a little different I want to offer today. I'm going to share, I've been talking a lot about Sophie and Schubert, the little characters that Dr. Bailey has created that help teach these skills to kiddos. And I wanted to have this opportunity to share with you, have a little story time, a little quick story time, to share with you a Sophie book and see how we can use this material in our classrooms to help implement these skills, okay? So this book today is called Sophie's Helpful Day, and it's written by Dr. Bailey. Sophie hands her brother Schubert his lunch as he leaves for school. Mom says, "You handed Schubert his lunch so he would remember it. That was helpful." Sophie grins with happiness. Sophie says to Piggy, her favorite stuffed pig, "I'm going to be helpful today." "I'm going to pick up all my books." "Piggy, do you want to help?" Sophie asks. "Look at you. You're picking up your books so we can walk safely around the room. That is helpful," Mom says as she peeks into the room. Sophie sings, "How can I help? How can I help? How can I be helpful today?" Then she says, "Piggy, let's look at our ways to be helpful pictures." I know, I can help put my clothes away." Mom comes in as Sophie stands on her tippy toes to put the last shirt in the drawer. "Look at you. You put your clothes on in the drawers so we could find them in the morning. You've had a very helpful day," Mom explains. Sophie giggles and says, "And Piggy helped too." Okay, and as you notice here in the very back of the book are notes. This says parent notes. So this is a book that maybe parents could have access to once you start reading it in the classroom. I did mention that that Schubert books are really for school age. They're a little bit more lengthier, and the situations are not necessarily at home. They're all school situations. So I wanted to share this with you today because I wanted you to hear some of the language and that in this book, as far as discovering what it felt like for Sophie to be helpful, and the encouragement that she felt from her mom, that it gave her that intrinsic motivation to be helpful, and she had that desire to want to help. In a perfect world, I would love for my kids to do this in my house. But I would love to go back in time and just have this, just what a rich conversation this could bring to the table. Not only are you promoting literacy with kids, but you're also creating just a social emotional piece for their development too, when we're talking about, gosh, what's that feel like? So you can take this even a step further. I'll show you an example here, how you can continue on with this as far as a lesson. But I wanted to share with you this book just so you that can see some of the language and some of the things we've kind of talked about. That power of encouragement, or that power of unity to bring that sense of encouragement. So as far as structures and things that you can implement in the classroom, Conscious Discipline has several structures that are available that are going to teach this skill, help teach this skill. As you can see here, we've got a kindness tree. A kindness tree is you can do in so many ways. You can get on Pinterest and look at so many ways to do it, but you can have a kindness tree in your classroom. You catch kids, doing something that's kind or thoughtful for others, and you kind of write it down on the kindness chart. Or you can have a job. We go into our board jobs here, our job board. We could have a kindness recorder. You could have someone in the classroom who kind of catches kids. Catches kids doing something that's kind or helpful, and have them kind of write it down on the kindness tree. As far as the job board, there are so many things. Conscious Discipline gives you so many different ideas of jobs that you can do. And we'll talk about the importance of jobs and how every child needs a job. I've talked to several teachers, administrators, and even parents to say, jobs go beyond the trash picker upper or the dishwasher unloader, or if you're in a classroom, it goes beyond the line leader in the caboose. Everybody needs a job, because think about what that does for kids is everyone wants and desires a way to be helpful. And everything can, one of my favorite jobs is an electrician. I think it's so cute. Just having a child responsible for making sure that the lights are turned off as you come and go into the classroom. I also have here, this is my daughter in the beginning of my Conscious Discipline journey. At my house, we created a kindness jar. And so kind of what that looked like. So we kind of did it in little baby steps. There is a ways to be helpful board. I think Sophie mentioned that in this book. But what we did to start this in my home is we had to go a little bit further into explaining what kindness means, what kindness looks like and feels like, before we brought out the structure. So that's what I would like to tell you today is, yes, these structures are great, but we can't put them up and implement them if kids don't understand the purpose of it, or what kindness means, or what that may look like for them. Remember, kids see through pictures and maps, so we have to paint that picture for them. So what we did with my kids is I talked to them about kind of starting this. And so from there, what we did at the time, both my kids were in school. My daughter was in preschool at the time. And we talked about what the word kindness means, what it means when someone is kind to you or you are kind to others, and how that kind of feels. And then we took it a step further and said, okay, what are some things you see at school during your school day or that you've done that could be kind? And then once I felt like they kind of grasped that concept, we took it another step further and we talked about what are some things that we could see out in the community, like when we're out grocery shopping, or if we're at the ballpark, or that we would see that could be kind. That went on for a couple of weeks until we kind of felt like they mastered, my husband and I felt like that both kids had mastered what kindness looks like. Then we brought out the kindness jar. And so what we did is we had little sticky notes. We set the kindness jar in the living room, in universal room where everyone could see. And we just wrote throughout the day different things that somebody would spot someone do, a kindness recorder. And we would stick it in the jar, and we had the kids pick out just one day of the week that we would pull these sticky notes out and we would read different acts of kindness. So these are just different, really inexpensive ways a mason jar, and some sticky notes and a marker, where you can start to implement these things really quickly. But also remembering, and this is the biggest part, is going back to talking about explaining to kids, having deep, rich conversations, language-filled conversations, promoting that language, and having kids create that sense of just that creativity of what it may be for them. So this is a first grade classroom that I did a little bit of coaching with, and we kind of started this kind of kindness concept. And so this is an image of the teacher kind of talking about what does kindness look like. And as you can see here, she's charted everybody's response. And we made sure when I was talking with her, to let's do this for every child, so that every child knows that they've been heard, that they have a voice. And so everybody, and to see that everybody's view of kindness may look totally different. So you have your stick with your friend, encouraging words, hugging, giving high fives, sharing snacks, saying hi. Everybody's ideas were kind of flowing with this. And she had a really good time doing this activity with her kids. Then over here on the other side, we did a lot of discussion about, kids saying, he's bothering me. And so this was continuing to go on. And so again, this is going back to these skills that we've already built on, trying to change your mindset as the teacher to look at this as a teachable moment. And so what we did is we said, okay, boys and girls, we've noticed that a lot of you are coming to me saying that so-and-so may be bothering you. So let's just sit here, right here in the circle, and let's talk about what that looks like for you. And so she just started writing, and kids were just kind of calling things out left and right, cutting in line, making loud noises, rushing me, pushing, all of these things are examples of things that kids have said that bother them. And then we took it a step further and we implemented the time machine from that. We role play different scenarios about so-and-so's pushing. So how can we problem solve and find a way instead of pushing others? What can we do? So this was a perfect example. Now with younger kids, you can do this very same thing. They're going to come up with all kinds of crazy answers, which those are the moments where, gosh, I would love to be a fly on the wall when this is happening, because I love to hear what what little ones have to say. But they all need to know that they have that sense of safety and they're connected. And this brings in that sense of unity as they're painting a picture of what this might look like. And think about what this is doing too. You're using it as a teachable moment, as an opportunity to teach what kindness is, instead of be kind. You all should be kind. Use your words, right? So this just kind of builds upon that. So these are just different ideas that you guys could use in the classroom. So when we're thinking about encouragement, in the past, and I still do it to this day, but 4 years ago when I discovered conscious discipline, I thought, oh my gosh, I have done it completely wrong. But, we pump each other up by saying good job. As a kid, I heard that a lot. As a teacher, I said that a lot. Good job, good job, good job. But think about, when we're thinking about what does good job do? When you hear good job, does it really give you kind of the feel good on the inside? That's like, yeah, I might want to do that again. 9 times out of 10, most of the time, no, it doesn't, right? So we just good job, good job, good job. We say that to ourselves too. And so really where I want to take you today is let's shift the good jobs, shift them to you did it or good for you. And you can start that now. You can be on that journey to start that language now. Before you have your own classroom, you do it to yourself or do it to others. I can tell you that in the beginning of this, good job came out all the time, but I literally always catch myself saying good for you, you did it. It's a different feeling. You can see the difference. If I were to say good job to my kids versus you did it, look at you, good for you. They feel that sense of ownership. It's that feel good. They have that intrinsic motivation to do it again, or that willingness to do it again. So when we think about noticing, now we know that noticing, we know how important it is. We have talked about that piece. We know that noticing is going to encourage children even more. So when they have done something or they have some type of accomplishment, we give them that sense of ownership by owning in on what they're doing, by giving them a play-by-play description, just like Sophie's mom did in the book. Let's go back to it. She says, Mom says, you handed Schubert his lunch so you would remember it. And then putting a tagline. Dr. Bailey says, put that tagline on. That was helpful. Immediately, Sophie grins like, okay, well, I think I'm going to do that again. Picture yourself in a classroom doing this very same thing. I've seen it in action. It's a beautiful thing. Kids are more motivated to continue helping others and being of service to others the more and more you practice this. So here's a formula. I love the formulas Dr. Bailey's come up with because it's easier for us teachers to remember. You did it. You picked up pushed the chair in so that we would be safe, or good for you. You tied your shoes before we walked down the hallway, keeping yourself safe. You got to notice, okay? Noticing comes into play if you have what? Practice your breathing. You're present in the moment. You're seeing a behavior and you're going, not today. I've got my power back. I'm not letting my feelings go. It's me. I'm in charge of me, no one else. Not this little precious little adorable child that's really making me clack. I'm going to go back here because we know that disconnected child are just children who need to be encouraged. And we've got an opportunity to give that to them. So that good job places that emphasis on the evaluation. So good job. Way to write your name on that paper. Well, that emphasis is on you. I like you when you're writing this way on that paper. Okay. If we replace it with you did it, it places the emphasis on the achievement, not the event, not how you did it. It's the actual achievement. You did it. It's a totally different experience. So let's practice, okay? Let's practice. All right. Sophie put on her backpack. Okay. How can we practice that? Obviously, you can't say back to me what you would say, but how can we go back to noticing and being present? And we want to motivate that child because let's say, for example, Sophie doesn't put on her backpack every single day and she's trying to catch the school bus and she's late, almost late every day because she can't put her own backpack on, right? Change the focus. She needs a new skill or she just needs to be encouraged, right? Sophie, you put your backpack on today. Good for you. Or you did it. You put your backpack on today, Sophie. Okay. Jordan organized his homework after completing it. Good for Jordan. We want to say, Jordan, good for you. You organized your homework after you got finished. Way to go. You did it. Okay. He's going to be more motivated to be able to do it. I wasn't so as dramatic or I had a lot of enthusiasm that round because I'm assuming that Jordan is in middle school and he doesn't want me as a mother, because I'll soon have a middle schooler, to embarrass him or try to be too babyish. But thinking about encouragement and noticing what that does is accepting children for who they are. And that's the best way to cultivate that culture of that power of unity. Acceptance says, hey, I have a sense of belonging. And that's exactly what we're doing here with this skill and this power. Here's another example of just kind of what this looks like when we're practicing the noticing piece. We don't want to go from the Judgy McGee to stay Judgy McGee. Okay. So if we say, good job, Erica, then we're judging Erica on an evaluation of what's happening. We want to go to noticing so that Erica goes, oh, okay, that's what I did. Okay, I'll do that again. Erica, you put your toys in the bins and your clothes in the drawers. You've cleaned your room so you can find things when you want them. And then end it with, you did it, or that was helpful. You're such a good boy. Okay, you're such a good boy. Child internalizes that as, you only like me when I have do X, Y, Z, right? Paint a picture. You showed Cody how to butter his bread without tearing it. That was helpful. Then he's like, oh, I achieved something. I like the feeling when someone says that was helpful. I like being helpful. Do you see what the child's saying? That was a great slide. You did it. Here's the noticing piece. You came down the slide with your feet first and landed right in my arms, right? Excitement, fun, enthusiasm. The child says, hey, I'm connected, I'm loved because you see me. When I say that was a great slide, the child's like, they didn't see me. Do you see that? What is happening inside the child's mind? When we think about acts of service, when we think about those noticing pieces, these are the things, these are the common acts that are going to come out that you should be kindness spotters, and jumping all over it to encourage kids. Helpfulness, kindness, taking turns, courtesy or cooperation. These are all things that are pretty frequent, common acts that you could practice noticing all the time. So we're thinking about encouraging children. Now, again, we know that a lot of times children may make poor choices, okay? We have to go back to, right? The way that we speak to ourselves is generally how we are going to treat others when we're upset or we're triggered. And as an adult, that's a good reminder, and we continuously do it a lot. So it's a reminder to go back to that inner voice that we have, okay? And what does that inner voice say? And I can probably answer for you that we typically are not encouraging ourselves at all. So if we, and here's what we've been building on, if we see all 7 of these skills, there's going to be some skills that we may lack. As an educator, we're going to lack some of these skills. So if you know right now in this moment that you do not encourage yourself typically, then that's a good place to start, because you can't offer that encouragement skill. You can't offer that sense of unity if you don't use that on yourself, right? So changing that inner voice, because we've got to think about, this is what we want for the next generation. We want this next generation of young little learners to be able to, first of all, they are resilient for everything they're going through and continuing to go through. But we want to develop that sense of just encouragement within them, right? And to have that inner speech that says to them, gosh, I can do this. So what does that look like for you as an adult? Well, that's celebrating moments that deserve to be celebrated. Let's say, for example, if you're normally forgetful, or you come in and you put your keys down and you always forget where they are, and the one day you find them, you're like, I did that. I found my keys today. Now that sounds really ridiculous, but that happens to me a lot. Or moments where maybe you're trying to eat better or make healthier choices on your food choices, and you had a great successful day as far as eating more fruits and vegetables and getting all your water down. Then celebrate that moment. The more and more you take your moments, and you don't have to make a big deal or, woo, I did it. Just internally say, gosh, I did that. I did that. The more and more you practice that for yourself, you're going to be able to encourage children who are making those choices that aren't necessarily the best choice in certain situations. You almost did it. So these are the things that, the children who are making the poor choices, we don't want to just quit with them. We don't just want to just dismiss what's happening or ignore a behavior. We want to give them a little bit of encouragement. You almost did it. You just need a little bit more practice. That's the child who wants to put their jacket on by themselves and they just can't do it, but they almost did it and they need a little bit more practice. I'm confident you can think of another way to solve your problem. Okay. You can handle this, right? You'll figure out a helpful way. You can do it. Keep breathing. You can handle this. Just take a deep breath. You've got this. So many times I've had to say that if either one of my children feel like they're being rushed to get ready to get out the door for practice or for school, and they're trying to be independent and put their own clothes on, and they get frustrated because maybe they're trying to put shoes on that just are a little hard to get on. That's a constant reminder. You've got this. Look at me. You've got this. Keep breathing. You can handle this, right? Okay. All right. I want to share a story with you. I want to share Ruben's story with you. And he's a little bit of an older student, but I want you to hear his story on how he was judged or labeled as a difficult child and how he shifted when he was trying to be helpful to others, or when he has the opportunity to be helpful to others. It kind of changed the way he saw things.
My name is Ruben, and I have jobs at Applied creek, when I come inside, I go and visit the nurse, and then I have a job for office helper, so I help Mrs. Bonds. And then I help on Tuesday. I do puzzles, and then on Wednesday I go over to the library and help Mrs. Meyer. And then the next day I go and I'm office helper, and then on the last day on Friday, and I like helping with them because I care about them, and I like doing it because it helps me not be mean to people.
Oh, that is just so precious. But what does that do for Reuben? Think about that. What is that doing for him, right? And so if you're thinking about the challenging children that are in your classroom, okay, and we have built upon this, and now we're shifting over to the emotional state of the brain. We're getting to a place where we're understanding that children who are difficult children, who are screaming for help, they are crying for help, and they just don't know how to do it. So they're acting out in certain ways, or being disruptive, or being aggressive with others, when really they're needing to know that they are accepted, noticed, and loved. They're in that emotional piece. That's why encouragement is one of the strongest skills in the emotional state of the brain. Children need to be encouraged. So instead of discouraging him, it was so precious at the end when he said, "So I'm not mean to others." He has a job to do every single day. He sees value in that. He knows the intrinsic motivation, the feel-good moments that it gives him whenever he helps children. And I'm thinking in the long run of his future, what is this going to do for him as he gets older? He's going to just love, or he'll end up being, I don't know, a teacher maybe someday, because someone had the opportunity to teach him what it's like to help for others and be for others. And there in return, his behaviors go down or seem to dissipate because he's being acts of service. And like he says, or he's being service to others and helpful. And like he said, it helps me not be mean to people. Isn't that precious? Okay, we're going to go a little bit younger here. And we're going to go into a pre-K classroom, but I want you to hear this song because at the end of it, I'll kind of share with you. This is a song that when I went through the training of Conscious Discipline Institute, this was a song that I would hear continuously all the time. And we say this now as habit at work with others, just to kind of have fun with it. But it's a constant reminder that it's so important to be helpful for others. It's a cute little song here. So I'll play that for you. So I don't know if you heard this song, but and you can change it for so many ways, but that was a connecting ritual, an example of a connecting ritual, which we know is so crucial, especially for young children as well. But it binds us together as a family, as a school family, or a home family. So when you're noticing kids doing things, it's you were helpful, you helped somebody today. You were helpful, you helped to make a better way. You did it. And how awesome is that? Just knowing that when a child hears that, or you go here to here, eye to eye, no matter how old your kids are, and you give them that moment where you're like, gosh, man, I feel good because I did something today. It's just that feel good, that feel good feeling. You know what it's like when you help others. It makes you feel good. It makes you want to do it again, right? So one little goodbye ritual that I'd like to teach you today is something, if you want to write this down or take a picture, it's something that you all could utilize in the classroom as a goodbye, as the end of your day kind of thing. But it goes like this. And wish well is a structure that's included in Conscious Discipline, but it goes like this. We wish you well. We wish you well. All through the day today, we wish you well. So that could be a morning ritual, morning routine, connecting ritual, or it could be in the evening, and so as you're continuously doing this, maybe as part of their daily routine, it gives them that intrinsic reminder, that motivation, that reminder to go, man, we are a school family, right? We need this. This is also something too that I've taught parents to do with their kiddos at drop off. I've had teachers use this outside of the classroom where they've had kind of like before COVID, they had kind of outside the classroom. So they had a moment where the parents would or guardians would have kind of like a goodbye ritual with their kiddos as they go off into their classroom and start their day. So I have had a blast going into the emotional state of the brain. It's one of my favorite topics. I love all of the skills and the structures that are included in this. And I'm just so excited because we have 2 more sessions that are going to be in this brain state. But I want to take you here today. And again, I want to leave you with this commitment until next time we see each other, to consciously notice and encourage and shift from the good jobs to good for you. And I shared that with you. I want to challenge you. I want you to kind of make that commitment, for others. If you're around other children, maybe you've noticed that they're making poor choices, shifting to good job, or you almost did it, or you'll get it. Let's just keep going. And if you're not around kids and don't have time to practice that, or not able to practice that, then I want you to start with yourself. You have perfect opportunity to practice for yourself, ownership over encouraging yourself, because the more and more you're going to encourage yourself, you're going to give that to these precious children who are soon to be in your classrooms. So if you're willing, let's commit. We're going to spirit fingers in. I am willing to consciously use noticing and encouragement to shift from good job to good for you and help children who make poor choices understand they are loved. I'm willing. You did it. Next session will be session 7, where we'll talk about the skill of choices and the power of free will. And we know that the power of free will says the only person I can make change is myself. So until next time, I will see you. Have a great day.